We're here with another spot in... Will you stop that? There's no mics.
I know.
It's not like tradition.
No. Well, it's becoming one. I like your reaction.
We're here with another spot interview of NeverEndingPanel.com. If he slaps his hands, there will be reality TV snuff film. Anyways, we are here with...
Very inappropriate and kind of gross.
That's bad.
Yeah, that really was. We
All
apologize for that.
We apologize for that.
We sincerely apologize. That should not have been done. Very, very, very sorry.
Can we make the introduction?
Go ahead.
Thank you. We're here with Irene Gallo, who is the art director of Tor.com and Tor Books. And we kind of wanted to talk to Irene and find out what it is to be an art director at the top-selling science fiction and fantasy publisher of the world, and what that entails, what goes on. Can you tell us what
fun stories that you don't usually hear that would just be...
That she would definitely say so that the entire event here
not like the most
jeopardized her 16-year career
just a little
at
thing.
the company.
Just a tiny
it's
little...
the little things that get people in trouble.
All right, the thing everybody knows at the company... never mind.
All right. So tell us what you do, and you've been there...
stuff that no one will get.
Can you let her talk?
Yes,
it's about
sir.
her, not you. Thank you. What do you do at Tor? What is you've been there for a while. You deal with art directors, obviously, and illustrators, but give us the rundown.
Basically, it's my responsibility to get all the book jackets made. So typically, it is only it's only the jacket or the cover, not anything to do with the interiors. Although occasionally we'll have interior illustration, which I'll be involved with. But it's talking to the editor, trying to figure out what the books are about, talking to marketing, sales, figure out what angle, who the best audience for the book is, what the tone of the book should look like. And taking that information and trying to find an illustrator or just a designer for sort of depending on what we feel the look of it should be. Working with the illustrator's sketches, making revises if we need to, and seeing it through, getting the paintings in, and at that point we'll comp up various different type versions with the illustration, the art, and take those to sales meetings and see if they like them, pray that they like them, and go from there.
So you'll get the art from the illustrator, say, if it's an illustrative cover, and then you'll decide what font's going to work with that.
Sometimes, and I have a team of, we don't have any in-house artists, it's all freelance, but we do have an in-house design team, which is really amazing. So I'll work with them, Peter Lutchen and Jamie Stafford Hill and Lisa Honerkamp, and they'll do a lot of the design work as well.
So obviously before you commit to an illustrator or a full-on image, you're going to have to sell this to the marketing department. So do you have 3 illustrators in mind and you ask each one of them to give you a bit of a comp and then you present those 3 to the marketing, or you decide I'm going with this guy and here's his rough sketch idea of what we talked about together, do you approve?
Pretty much I'll work with one illustrator. Once, I say that I spend most of my time deciding who should do the job and not what they should do with it.
Right.
We're working on hundreds of books a year, and there's no way that I'm reading all those books, and
Right.
So I'll usually try to find an illustrator that I know will bring a lot of their time to thinking about the project, and I'll trust them to come up with something interesting, and they'll show me 3 or 4, sometimes more sketches, and then I'll work more with the editor at that point. I might hone it down to 1 or 2 because if I sort of feel some are stronger than the others, but usually it's more working with the editor. At that point, we've pretty much trusted that we have the right person. Every once in a while, there's 1 or 2 covers each season where we'll go through the whole process and sales won't like it or the bookstores won't like it, and
you
we'll
go to
start
another
over.
illustrator and start all over.
But we don't start off that way typically.
Is there a time of year where it's more rushed than others, or is it just steady flow?
It used to be.
slumped?
We definitely have seasons. We have 3 catalogs a year, and there used to be sort of a wave to the year. But at this point, we've actually become much better at parsing out the work throughout the year and having more checkpoints than we used to have. It's more books, and as we have when I started, we had like 40 books in the catalog, and it's gone up to like 90 at some points. And
So you oversee 90 covers a year?
well, that's per season. So
Per season?
yeah,
So how many
seasons.
covers would you say you
I
oversee a year?
can't do the math. So it's
Really, that
anywhere.
many?
I mean, it's not 90 anymore. Like this each season is more or less. The fall season tends to be more than summer season because you have Christmas coming up. You have,
And
And
then
is a season literally a 3-month block of time, or does it vary?
there's 3 seasons. So yes, 4 months each. There's but as we've grown as a publisher, we've become more organized and more
Do you oversee the Fantasy Tour Forge also, or just Tour?
Tour, Forge, Starscape, and Tour.com. So,
Wow.
And Tour.com is different in that it's runs more like a magazine. So, and we have a lot more independence there, which is kind of neat.
Got it. Do you dial in when you say pick you know what illustrator you might want for particular work based on what has been described or explained to you of the novel? Do you dial in time for the illustrator to read? Do most illustrators want to read the work?
I would say, maybe a third will read the books, and definitely if they want to, that's a huge help. Because again, like I can't read all those books. A lot of times I'll read the first 50 pages of something. And I'm sort of getting my notes from the editor. Some of them are very visual, some aren't. It's not their job to be visual, and I find sometimes we'll focus on an important plot turn and maybe not the most interesting visual that will grab somebody's attention.
Right.
So when an artist wants to read the book, I will definitely try to get them a copy of the manuscript to read it, and they'll usually come through. And at that point, they'll start talking to me like, "Well, there's one scene or another before," or maybe just doing very quick. They're called thumbnails, but they're almost stick figure sketches, just to kind of get a few ideas going back and forth before they spend time.
And from approved sketch to completed cover, how long does that normally take?
It's sort of, from the sketch to the cover, it's actually pretty quick, because at that point, that illustrator is working on my job, and there's a back and forth, so that might take 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the style of the illustrator. Some people have a very tight, like highly rendered style, and that might take longer. Others with a more painterly style will go more quickly. But illustrators, they're freelancers, they have their careers, they're working for many different clients, and so typically I'll need to commission them 3 or 4 months ahead of time. And the thing is, it's usually the sketch that takes the long time. After the sketch is approved, it's just a rendering, at that point. At that point, it's sort of fun for them. All the decision making is sort of gone. The creative, not that part isn't creative, but the coming up with a good idea part has happened already, and so it's actually the sketch stage that takes longer than the.
How many illustrators at one time are you working with?
That's hard. These are things I should know off the top of my head.
What's your favorite cover of the year?
Yeah, all of them. I would say at least a dozen, and things are kind of like, and there's some people that have just given, I'm like, oh, here's a synopsis, go think about it, and other people where, I'm looking at a finished painting, but I want some changes, and there's other people where I'm looking at sketches.
So you're dealing with a dozen highly charged creative people at any one time?
Yeah, and it never really gets less than that. So it's an easygoing job. Yes. And it never, because as I say, like sort of that one person's sort of fading out, the other person's fading in, and we do a lot of series, so that kind of helps in that. You're working with the same people over
and you have a theme, and you have an illustrator, and okay, do that, but with this thing now.
Yeah, and we kind of like the more you work with somebody, the more of a shorthand you have, and it's sort of more easygoing, I guess.